Life isn't perfect, and neither are we.
Nope. But we know how to face our fears
And have some fun.
and talk about all the messiest things of life.
Like the messiest things.
Get connected to yourself, get connected to others, and get connected to the life right in front of you.
This is The Connected Life with Justin and Abi.
That's me.
That's you.
And you. Hey there, Connected Life peeps.
No, stop it.
I took your
Take
line.
it back.
Do you know that you have the same opener every single
I
time?
say, hey, friends. Hey, peeps.
Hey there, Connected Life peeps. You say
Justin here. Take it back. Undo it now. Brrr.
Yep.
Hey, Connected Life peeps. Justin here.
That's exactly what you do every time.
We're sitting in our little studio, and we're working with our videographer.
Ooh.
We want to tell you a little bit about that. Now, this has been something that's been being worked on. We kind of had some vision being cast like last year for it.
Yeah.
Late fall, but we are working towards getting all of our stuff up on YouTube. Mm-hmm. Videos of our faces. Just our faces, no content.
It's going to be a real trick for me because most of the time I record our podcast in like my bathrobe.
You look homeless most of the time when you do it. You're like, here I am. Let's do this podcast together.
I know it's going to be a trick or a treat.
Oh yeah, both. We've been working on the transition of like, hey, we have a studio set up in the house, and we obviously need a much bigger studio.
We do need a bigger studio.
So we're back and forth on that. But Abby and Brian, video Brian, try to hustle me into tearing apart my nerd cave. And like, are you sure you don't want to box up all your action
we
figures?
just thought it would be a good studio. It's a good size for a studio.
But you brought it up as if it was a
house.
possibility that it would like really happen. And there was this thing going on inside of me. I'm like,
oh, you were upset inside.
well, I mean, not that bad. I mean, it was just, I did have the thought, all right, if this leads to divorce, it does. It was a good run. God bless. Them's fighting words there. I do have this slight fear that if we ever I walk a pretty fine balance line in all my life as far as like being on my best behavior in this relationship because
you don't want me to get half the toys.
Well, no, the fear of just coming home and you've like taken everything and thrown it on the ground and lit it on fire on me.
Oh.
Like, really it's that. It's my action figures that keep me on good.
That's not really though true. That's a joke.
It's totally a joke.
If that was true, you'd be on better behavior.
That was well played. That was good. You were a little snappy this morning. Quick. Ooh. Yeah. Hey, guys, you're probably wondering, what are we talking about? What do you got to talk about today? We're 3 minutes into this. What are we doing here?
You know what we're doing? We're gonna talk about some things on our minds and our hearts. Mostly vision cast a little bit about our dreams and our dreams with you, the listeners.
This is a podcast that is an invitation to kind of ignite something inside of all of you. Like, I feel like this conversation is saying like, hey, what if life can look a lot different in some pretty radical ways? And I think that there's been some times where people have vision cast about the possibilities of life in general and what life could look like, that it hooked something inside of me and it said, I want that. I'm going to apprehend that. Mm-hmm. Just hearing it laid out said that is available to me. I know that in our lives, there are people who have crossed our paths relationally where the way that they're living their life is a testament of what's available to me. Yeah. It doesn't mean that they're perfect. They don't have it all together. There's aspects of something that illuminates like, hey, and this is possible for you. Oh yeah. Like I would call them expanders. And when I was younger growing up, I would actually have more like, I'd have depression around people like that. Cause I'd be like, oh, I'll never be able to be like that, or that I'll never be able to live that. Or like the comparison would like hook me and I'd kind of like melt inwardly. And then I heard a teaching that was like, what you see is meant to expand your vision for who you could be and what it could be like. And so then when I'd feel that feeling of pressure
inside my body, when I saw something, I'd be like, oh, this is the pressure of me pushing past my limiting beliefs. This is the pressure of me digging into something. I remember the first time we met, we met this guy who cussed like a sailor, cussed like a sailor, and was a pastor, but owned his own business and was like just a normal dude. We've had him on our podcast before, Kelly and Joey Festi. They talked about sex. It was a great episode.
It was a fantastic episode.
But I remember when we met him, there was like this expanding you had inside your soul of what your life could look like and be like.
Look, it is okay that I cuss. No, that's not the message I took away. But it was an expansion of how I saw, because he was walking this really incredible, I mean, he operates in this world with working with professionals in the NFL and financial management with them and other sports players and stuff like that, as well as, and being just a very normal dude. Yeah. Loves people, loves God, is what it is. Yeah. And then he's over here dipping his toes in as a pastor and overseer within the church environment. And I was just like, wow, this is so incredible. I am someone who is already on that. Like, this is who I feel like I am, you know, I'm someone who brings just the normal everyday person into an empowered lifestyle with an experience with God as my hopes. It's something like that. But finally I saw someone. But you can be
just a normal person. It's not overly religious. It doesn't have to be
hyper spiritual.
Yes.
But it can involve a lot of beautiful spiritual encounters inside of it. And I saw that and I'm like, yeah, like that's part of who I am. And he's giving me permission. I'm just seeing, I'm seeing that he's further on down the line and he's doing the same thing. I'm like, yes, I can run after this. Like that. And so I think, were you going to say something more?
No,
I
was talking about just the importance of expanders. When you hear vision, it can expand your view of who you're meant to be in your life and give you more permission to be yourself and more fuel and fire.
There's something that when we meet expanders or we have expanding conversations, that something gets really excited inside of us. Sometimes two wars happen. Like one, the war you talked about was like,
can I be this?
Can I be that? Is that even really possible? Yeah. There's almost, you're hitting the limiting belief. On the other side, there's a resonance. There's an excitement. There's something that rises up inside of you. And that thing that rises up inside of you is to me, an aspect of that is a revealing of the truth of our being. Yeah. There's something about when we get that excitement, like, no, this is actually a design inside of me. And this vision is opening the eyes of my being up to the reality of, like, this has been planted somewhere within me. How it looks, how it's expressed could be a million different ways, but there's something about the conversation, the experience with the person that's resonating with something that was written long before I found myself here running around on earth. And I think that that's something for all of you to keep in mind as you're listening to stuff like this, of like these expanding conversations or engagements with expander, like when we engage with an expander, as Abby called them, they shouldn't provoke hopelessness. Yeah. And where we feel sudden hopelessness is this voice of accusation inside of our own hearts and our minds, that actually there's an invitation to begin to do battle with that. Like, oh, I felt a surge of hopelessness over something that felt so exciting and felt like it should be mine. That means I have this battle that I need to begin to do. And when I talk about a battle, I mean a full-blown, I am confronting the reality of, I have a monster of accusation that's sitting inside of my soul that is telling me what I can't be and what I'm not designed for. And I am not going to sit back idly and allow it to be the God of my life that ends up dictating the reality of my future and how this limited time on earth gets dictated. Yeah. But I'm actually going to hunker down and be like, no, I see you. I'm going to talk. I'm going to put a spotlight on you. I'm going to talk openly about you until you no longer have power in my heart, in my mind, in my practical walkings out in life. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the only way that you've done it, is in our life, to keep pushing. Like when you feel that voice of fear or accusation, to keep pushing through.
Yes. And I think that's a component of vision that part of what the connected life is for. And part of why I feel like, my heart for starting it is to shatter the limitations that exist on humanity.
Yeah.
And some of those limitations involve our pain, and then they involve our belief systems, and then they involve the brokenness inside of relationships. These are all all limitations, right? And for me, the connected life is a place where it's like, hey, I'm wanting to foster a culture and a community of people who suddenly will go against the grain of all limitations inside of their life and say, I only have one life to live. F it. I'm not going to sit here and allow it to be small, but I am going to find a way to thrive. I am going to find a way to repair and restoration. And I am going to find my way back to redemption.
Yeah. I've been thinking about this a lot. Like people who are charged with, I'm going to find my way back till I feel at home inside of myself.
Yes.
I'm going to, and I love that you talked about redemption. Like that is one of the pillars of our beliefs, is that our lives are meant to be stories of redemption. And it doesn't matter where you're at in the story. Some of you have just experienced redemption and you're in the celebration of it. Some of you have just experienced the despair and the brokenness, and it's hard to even believe redemption is possible.
Yeah.
And some of you are like, you've gotten lost in the mundaneness of life, and you've just kind of accepted like, this is the way life is.
This is what it is.
And it's almost like you've forgotten that there's redemption or more for you. And our heart in this podcast is so much about reconciliation and redemption, like reminding yourself, no, there is redemption for every area of my life. I'm involved in a story where things can come together. The impossible can become possible. Reconciliation with broken relationships can happen. I can transform. I can go from somebody who's beat down by their emotions to somebody who feels powerful with them. I can go from somebody who's in despair or in darkness and has hopelessness all the time to somebody who has hope and vision and truth. Like it's our goal is to continue to remind people like, hey, for you, the people, I think that I was the person that was like, it's for everyone else but me, like, oh yeah, well, that favor is for everyone else but me. That healing in their lives is for everyone else but me. That redemption, that gift on their life is for everyone, like everyone else will get those. And so like, if you're listening to this podcast, you're here divinely because there is something about your story where you are meant to actually come into the understanding that there is more for your life. And not in a discontented way, in a hopeful way. Not in a like, I can't be satisfied yet, but actually a like, no, there's more hope. There's more joy. I'm meant, like I was watching this show this weekend with this girl, and she went through so many hard things. And you see her just start to like melt down in the face of the adversity that and she becomes like a hardened version of herself. Yeah. Because of all the crap she's had to push through and persevere in. And then you see this area where there's love in her life, and you can see that the love is meant to pull her back
to the truth of who she is.
To the truth of who she is. Not the truth of who she became to survive.
Correct.
And I think that that's our heart for people listening to this podcast, is to wake up out of survival, to find that there's tools so you don't have to just make it through every day, but you can find that there is something beautiful about your life. There is something beautiful about who you are and who you were meant to be, who you were born as, your little girl or your little boy that was so innocent and free and fun. Like before life started to destroy you, before life started to disappoint you, before life kicked the shit out of you. Yeah. Like there is a way to get back. There is a way. And I believe it because I've seen that happen twice in my life. There was the first time where I like radically encountered love over and over and over again. It was around when I met you, the few years before I met you, and then meeting you the few years. And I like I came alive for the first time. I laughed more than I ever had in my childhood. I felt more secure in my own skin than I did as a kid. Like, it wasn't just that I got back to my little kid. It's like I got back to who I was supposed to be.
You were restored to your innocence, actual innocence, before it's been shattered by life experiences.
Yeah. And like, I actually felt safe in my own skin and loved being me and felt connected to others and felt connected to God. And then, and that felt wonderful. And I paid a price for that. Like, the freedom cost something.
Yeah, it did.
It took me, it is hard work to break limiting beliefs, and it is jumping out of the familiar and choosing. And then there's a million pathways I chose to learn and grow and dig into my own emotional health. There was courses I did. There was books I read. There were people I met with. There was truth I shared that hurt, I was vulnerable. I was real. I was courageous. And the effort was worth it. Like, I became so alive, so connected to my own power. And then I went through, and I was like that for a while. And then I went through a year or 2 or 3 where so many traumatic things happened, one after another, until it's literally like, if you saw my soul and there was like, this trauma took up 10% and this trauma took up 10% and this trauma. And it was like, enough traumas happened that it like completely shattered my insides.
Yep.
And like, there was no more me. I like, not only did I revert back to who I was before, I reverted back to like just not even a functioning human. I had so much PTSD and it was overwhelming. Now, I will say that the foundation of love made it so that it didn't take me out like it would have had I not gotten healed. So I want to be clear. It didn't take me back to where I was before. It took me to a different place of brokenness, completely different, but a place of brokenness where I knew love existed and a place of brokenness where I knew hope existed. I knew transformation existed because I'd been through it. Your history can be such a great tool if you use it for good, not for evil. And I thought, I was so broken. I thought, I will never come back from this. Like, I couldn't imagine a day where I would feel safe in my own body again, where I would feel safe, where I could find myself at home again inside of me, where I could trust people again, where I could trust God again, where I like just everything. I felt like so internally, it was like having, like, it's like I had solid ground underneath me. And then it was like just quicksand inside. There was nothing to stand on. There was nothing to hold to. There was no pillars left that I could find like security in or strength in. Like, everything got pulled out from underneath me. And it was a felt sense in my body, and my body went into chaos from it. And the reason what a depressing story on this vision episode. Yeah. The reason that I'm sharing that
Stop depressing everybody.
The reason that I'm sharing that is because I genuinely have slowly crawled back out from under that. Like, I've gathered the pieces back. Do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I do want to say something, because like, here's the reality. We live enough life. You have miscarriages. You have death of loved ones. You have loss of friend groups. We lose jobs. People go through bankruptcy. Everything it's one thing after another. You have to move.
You have a chronic sickness. Somebody you love is diagnosed with a terminal disease.
And the question becomes, is my life defined by these experiences? Will my life have to like crumble into this sense of crappiness across the board, where it's defined by all these losses and tragedies that life does bring to our door? Or is it something that I get to not only define the experience that I'm having by becoming empowered, but I can also find repair for things and extract beauty out of the most destructive situations. You know, one of the things that has frustrated me about the religious institution is the message that God gives us, just dumpster fires. And he's like, here, I'm using this to teach you something. I'm like, that's stupid. However, there is a good daddy that says, kiddo, you just like got broken and shattered in a million pieces, and I'm gonna reach my hand in the midst of your messiness, and I'm gonna breathe life on this thing, and there's gonna be so much beauty for it, and we're gonna find out who you truly are. I'm gonna extract the truth of your being. If you're willing to say yes to the invitation that I'm extending, if you're willing to get up one more day out of bed, if you're willing to trust one more moment, like if you're willing to actually say yes to the moment put in front of you, you're not here to do it on your own. You don't have to fix yourself on it. But if you're saying yes to participation, that there is a dad that will extract beauty out of it, and there'll be a revealing of the gold of who you truly are inside of these circumstances.
Yeah.
And that's the reality to that with what Abby's saying, is that we all find ourselves both trying to find our way out of the hell that we've been inside of, and trying to find our way out of the hell that feels like it's getting inflicted on us. And it's very easy to tap out.
Absolutely.
And it's very easy to feel like
either to tap out by like quitting, or like becoming apathetic, or just choosing to like shrivel into what the lies say.
Right. Like, I guess this is just who I am. I guess, and Abby said this earlier, and this is a monstrous voice that I've heard through so many clients. I guess this is just the way life is. And it's so painful because like
that is a tap out.
That is a tap out.
We should call it out. That belief, I guess this is just what life will be like.
That's a 100% tap out.
It's and I agree with.
My hope's been broken.
Yes.
My capacity's been broken. I don't feel like I have anything left in me.
And tapping out there's no shame in that. But what we're saying is there is hope. You don't need to give in to that lie. And
that's part of the vision for one aspect of what the connected life is meant to be, and what we want it to be in the future, is that it's a place where people come to and they go, oh my gosh, I don't have to tap out. This isn't just how life has to be. I can actually rewire my heart, my mind, my spiritual experiences. I can redefine the entirety of my life, and I can be a co-creator that creates beauty from the most destructive things inside of my world. That the truth is that we want to be a place that helps people in building resilience.
Yes.
Resilience in all kinds of aspects, pain resilience, shame resilience, right?
Yeah.
Where there's this thing inside of us that says, it doesn't matter how much pain there was, it doesn't matter how much shame I felt, I'm actually resilient inside of myself to face these things and overcome them. Because here's the reality, and I said this to somebody this morning. I was in a church service, and I turned around and I said, I keep seeing this picture of me grabbing you by the face and screaming in your face and telling you, you're not so effing fragile. You're not so fragile. You're not fragile. You're not effing fragile. It was like this building of truth to them. And I'm like, you're not fragile. You're powerful beyond belief. And it's my dream that even within this is that you begin to break the lie of fragility, that the people who gather, the culture that's created, is that it's a culture that says we are not a fragile people.
Yeah. And to clarify, resilience isn't my ability to push through, because that's what I did for years.
Correct.
I was so good at just shoving emotions down, taking the hits and moving forward. Like, yeah, I'll take that sucker punch. I'll keep moving. Oh, I'll take that slap across the face. I'll keep moving. Like, resilience is not, I can just shove things down and push through. Resilience is like, I actually, and this is why we're passionate about the Life Consulting Masterclass, why we're passionate about Pathways to Freedom, because resilience is the ability to learn how to get your body and your mind and your emotions to feel safety
and peace.
As you learn to feel safe and peace, it actually strengthens you, like adamantium or whatever. And
like adamantium in Wolverine's bones.
Yes. Where like I was trying to be strong in the wrong ways my whole life, which was a push through mentality. And that's what I thought resilience is. And now resilience to me is learning how to feel my feelings, but learning how to receive and stay connected to safety, learning how to stay connected to love, learning how to, and And the more I changed my core value, it's actually really easy. You just have to, you have to learn to do it.
Yeah.
But it's very simple. I think healing is now that I've gone through trauma and all the different kinds of healing modalities, I've come to realize that healing is very simple. It's just, you have to do the work for it.
Yeah.
And that is not as easy. Like, it's not like you have to actually do it. You have to retrain yourself how to feel safe.
Yeah.
Inside. And I wanted to mention that because I know we're talking about resilience. I'll come back to that. I'm having times where I feel safer than I ever felt. Not, you know how I talked about in my 20s, I felt so connected to love and power. And the things I'm getting healing, the things I got healing from this PTSD went way back, all the way back from before then. And so there's moments that I feel safer than I have since I was a kid.
Right.
Like, I didn't even know.
Because the emotions
possible.
of PTSD that you were feeling up here actually tapped into a deep root of experience way back there. And the repair work of getting safe within your side of yourself started repairing something that was so rooted at such a young age that you're like, oh, I feel a different type of safety that I never felt even then.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I've started to realize I really probably had PTSD my whole life. Like, when I go back, I was on edge and unsafe inside my body. And feeling so out of control and so powerless. And I had all the symptoms. My parents didn't know how to help. Yeah. But I mean, Pete Lee will be like, you had all of the PTSD symptoms as a kid. You were doing all of these behaviors that would have let people know if people would have been trauma informed back then. It's okay that they weren't. But so it's like, not only am I healing from the PTSD I got from a few years ago, it's healing like a fracture that had been in my body and my soul and my system from the beginning of my whole experience. And so while I don't feel fully put together, I'm having more experiences of safety, like true safety. And when I'm connected to that, I feel more resilient than I have my entire life.
Yeah.
Those moments. And the process of healing is like this, where it's like I experience those moments and then I go back and then I experience those moments and then I go back and then I experience those moments and go back until those moments are taking up more and more time. And that is the journey that I'm on. What are you feeling something?
No, go ahead.
And so I'm just saying it, when I was a kid, my mom went through a trauma similar to what I went through. It was not as many traumas all at once, but it was a few of them. She went through a few of them. And she folded inward. Yeah. Like, it was just too much for her. She became depressed and never came out. Like, that was like when I was 7, she like never rebounded. And I remember when I got so, like, when it happened, like when everything in my life fell out, I was like, oh no, I'm going to become just like her. Like, I'm never going to make it out of this either. Like, there is trauma that can be so big that you can't recover from. Like, there is something that can take you out. Like, and that's what we're talking about is vision. And that's the lie, because there's always repair. There's always reconciliation. It's all available. There's always redemption. There's always healing. And like, what I didn't know then is that I almost feel like, I don't feel like I got broken for the sake of this, but the brokenness enabled me to realize that bone had been broken my whole life. And now we're healing it in the right way.
It was the
like, now we're putting
to
it back
repair.
in a cast to get it sorted the way it was supposed to be.
It became a spotlight on something that had long existed inside of it. I think that there is a truth that no one is too far gone. And there's a lie that at some point I can be too far gone. Yeah. That happens inside of people. And either become too far gone, or I was too broken to begin with. Yeah. Or even just like, I've been like this too long. Yes. Like, well, I've had self-hatred for 37 years, so I'm never going to love myself. Yeah. Or I've struggled with depression for the last decade. I'm never going to get out. It doesn't even have to be so extreme. It could just be so long. Yeah. And part of the thing inside of the connected life and what we do is like, my dream is that we are fostering a community of hope bringers who are so connected with the truth of who they are, the truth of a radically loving creator, equipped with the practical tools and spiritual tools, that they're actually sources of hope to the world around them, not because they're faking it, but because they have seen the practical, empowering experiences of transformation that can happen inside of their life. And they are a walking story of redemption that says, no, but I know what it was to have loss. I know what it was to be broken and be at the end of myself and feeling like there was no future. And I found truth and I found life and it became abundant for me. And I learned how to live and I began to foster it inside of my community. And I watched other people come alive. Yep. And so they become this like beating heart of hope, not because they're just throwing out really happy mantras, but because they went from one place and condition to a whole new place and condition. And so they're a tangible story of that.
Well, and that's why like our life consulting masterclass is about them going through their own process.
Yeah.
Because if you have walked through your pain to safety, your pain to love, your pain to peace, if you've gone on your journey, you know how to help other people go on that pathway. And that's the whole point of the connected life, is like reminding people you can get connected to yourself.
Yeah.
You can find safety. You can come home inside of yourself. Like you can start to feel like it's safe to be at home in your own skin.
Speaking of that, recently we did an episode with Tiffany and Matthews, and she talked about the overflow of radical spiritual experiences that are starting to take place and miraculous expressions of God all of a sudden being very real and tangible inside of their world on the back end of her own and their community's own personal journey of emotional health, actually getting healing. And there's something for me that part of my dream inside of everything, ever since I was young, is that I could create an expression of God that felt both practical and tangible and supernatural in nature. Yes. That we could have more than just an idea of a loving creator, but like even the idea that there is an intimate friend where Jesus actually steps into our story and visits us with the presence of his spirit in a way that it's tangible. It's not some like, oh, I have this thoughtful value system about what God could be or is, and it's logic. No, it's like experiential based encounters that suddenly go, hey, when you feel most incapable and out of control and you feel most alone, there is actually someone and something that will step into the midst of your story and that will transcend every bit of practical counseling and therapy and every obstacle you've ever had, and bring a liberation to your heart and your mind, and then begin to create wild possibilities that transcend our human thought of what it could be possible, what the possibility of what it could look like to just live, to have happiness and joy, and to have deepened relationships. Like what happens when these two things have a radical collision? Yeah. Tangible spiritual realities with practical wholeness hitting together within not just an individual's life, but an entire community's life. And that's one of my dreams with the connected life, that no matter what spiritual faith background that people are from, whether they're atheist, agnostic, they're Muslim, Buddhist, I don't care, but they would actually begin to have their hearts apprehended by something that's a tangible, supernatural expression that touches their hearts with love and wholeness and repair, like while getting like the practical rebuilding of their lives.
Yeah. There's very few places that I think we've seen that are marrying the emotional health, like trauma-informed understanding how humans work, with the supernatural, a God that steps in and gets involved beyond what we can
is
do.
tangible and participates and isn't just a theory.
Yeah. And it's been hard for me to hold the two of those in different seasons, because sometimes the way God's shown up is through the practical, very skills of emotional health. And sometimes it's been through the miraculous divine intervention. Although I would say that they're all combined. It's just the way it looks and feels is different. But I do think that this is something that we're really feeling on our, do you have something?
No, go ahead.
We're really feeling on our hearts for the future is wanting to gather a community of people who are emotional health warriors, who are going through the process, who are wanting to deal with their stuff, who are facing their messiness, who are being honest with the people around them, who are growing towards life.
Yeah.
And who love God and who want to see God's kingdom, his joy, his hope, his peace, his love, his healing, his communion with humanity, want to see that grow on the planet.
Well, and one of the things that we're talking about that is shattering the mundane.
Yeah.
Right? Because we as human beings, whether it's in the religious circles that we're in, or just the emotional health circles we're in, or just practically doing life, like there's so much mundaneness that, how do I put it? Like, we weren't meant to live mundane lives. I'm not talking about I'm not saying it's mundane to just work a 9 to 5 and have a family. I'm talking about we can work a 9 to 5 and have a family, and that doesn't have to feel mundane.
Yes.
That can feel radically beautiful and supernatural, because the connections that we have with each other and the experiences that we're sharing with each other and with God. And there can be something fervent that happens inside of us that it wakes us out of that feels
hopeful.
passionate. Yeah. Shakes us out of the mundane.
Yeah. I mean, I think Pete and Johnny talked about this so eloquently in the series that we did with them, is learning that just having kids and being good parents and working through their stuff was actually this incredible, amazing opportunity and gift. Yeah. And when they switched, they started coming alive in it. They started finding joy in it.
Yes.
And that's what we're talking
thriving
about.
inside.
We want to see people
I'm a mom,
thriving.
I'm a dad. This is incredible. This is beautiful what I'm doing with connecting with my children.
I'm laying down my life for them. And
yes.
this is the amazing gift of that.
Yeah. I mean, and Johnny talked very eloquently about the pains of even that, of feeling like his life destiny had to be to make this type of impact around the world, where it's like the impact began with him coming alive in his heart to the things that were keeping him muddled and downtrodden and actually come alive to the kids and the family that's right there with him.
Yeah. Well, and that's again what the call is. We want people to come out of the mundane.
Yes.
We want people to come out of life just status quo, surviving one more day at a time. We want people to start to feel that spark of what is the more for me? What else exists for me? And I know that, did you have something? Go ahead.
No. I mean, I was just thinking about the show The Walking Dead, and how so many of us, we're walking dead, right? Mm-hmm. It's like we're here to survive. We're here to just eat and keep moving along and just bumping into one another. And it's like, we were not meant to be the Walking Dead. Yeah. We were meant to be experiential, relational creatures that get the joy and pleasure out of having exchanges with one another, rather than oh God, I have one more thing I have to do on my plate, one more expectation on my shoulder. What if life wasn't, I have all these expectations on my shoulders and to-do lists, but what if it was, instead of to-do lists, they were engagement lists. Here's the life, here's the life that I have an opportunity to engage, whether it's being a soccer parent who's going and getting to go coach or pick up your kids at school and interact with their friends. It's not I have to, it's I get to experience the growth and the development of these young people. I get to experience the growth and development of people at my work and stuff.
But I'm listening to you and I'm like, if I hear that and I'm not connected to myself, all that sounds like is work.
Exactly.
It just sounds like now I have to just be on. Yeah. And I have to just try and I have to strive to look like I'm engaging things. And I was thinking about that because being connected to yourself, it takes some time. Like when I want to avoid being in my own skin, it is so much work to be present. Yeah. So like just being at a soccer game and being alive in a soccer game could sound like hell to me if I can't be in my own body and I can't be present. Or if I don't know how to be in my own skin, or if I don't feel safe in, like, if I have too much social anxiety, whatever the thing is. And so we're not casting vision for you have to become this image on the outside. Yeah. We're wanting people that want to grow on the inside. So there's a natural overflow of connection to the world. There's a natural overflow of I've had to train myself to be present. Absolutely. Because when I went through trauma, all I wanted to do was escape everything. Yep. My body, this moment, where we're at, what's going on. And so I literally trained myself to live outside of the present moment. Yeah. I mean, my survival instincts were like always thinking like, what could go wrong? What has gone wrong? What do I need to prepare for? How do I get on guard? And so actually learning to be present. But when you become present and you get safe inside yourself, it's a natural thing. I've watched this I have a friend who's gone on a massive emotional health journey in the past few years. They were an addict. They got sober. They started facing their pain. Mm-hmm. And it's not like I need to have conversations with them and be like, you should engage people. You should find joy. No, the natural overflow of them getting connected to themselves. I just had a conversation with them the other day and they're like, I feel love a lot for people. And then people love me back. And I could tell he's in like the love flow where he meets people and he feels connected to them. He's connected to himself. So there's a genuine connection that can be made. And genuine connection is like crack cocaine to the human soul. It really is. I mean, honestly, humans are made to belong. It's a primitive survival instinct in our bodies to need to connect. We need to feel like we belong to something in order for us to feel safe. That's what we needed. Our ancestors needed that skill. Like if I don't have a tribe, the lions are going to eat me. The dinosaurs are going to stomp me out. You know what I mean? Like I need a tribe to protect me, or another tribe is going to kill me if I don't have a tribe. And so there's a thing even in our bodies that experiences like euphoric endorphins when we have real, genuine connection with people. And you don't have to try to come alive in your life. Exactly. If you are actually learning how to be present inside of yourself. And I wanted to speak to that because, there's so many years as an introvert and also somebody who unconscious of how I was avoiding my pain was just like, everything looks exhausting. Everyone wants to take from me. This feels like I have to turn myself on in order to show up to this circumstance. And so it felt tormenting to me, the idea. Like a conversation like this back then, I probably would have already turned the podcast off. Totally. Yeah. Or been like, who do these guys think they are? It's too much work. They don't know what it's like to be me. Yeah. But as there was a submitting to no more strife and striving and allowing people to love me and allowing repair to happen inside of me. And as I got present with myself and that began to overtake me, right? Like what you're talking about, it became a natural repercussion of that, of like, I see people, I want to engage people. And it's not even just the output of talking to a bunch of people. It was that, I'm enjoying this moment that is very present right here in front of me. Yeah. I think I want to add something too. When I look at it, this is kind of how I look at the journey here on earth, is like, there's a really loving dad that comes up, puts his arm around us and says, hey kiddo, would you like to just stop worrying about the past and the future? And would you like to just engage this one thing right here in this moment with me? Because I would love to engage this one thing in this moment right here and now. I would love to have this conversation about this part of your heart and this part of your story. And you have a very limited time here on earth. And I'm not so concerned about you getting to said destination.
I'm concerned about just spending some time with you, and we'll worry about what's necessary for your life to engage in. If you'll just be with me, you'll get what you need inside of this, kiddo. And really, it's a dad that's inviting us out of comparison and out of like our own judgment of what our life should be, how it needs to look, the things we need to do. He's like, no. Let's just talk about what we need to do in this moment. Let's talk about what it is to be right here with me in this moment. And that can be as simple as I'm cleaning the house and I'm getting present with myself inside of that, and just not worrying about like the bills that are going to need to be paid, to, hey, I'm here to be present with you in your fear of money and paying these bills right now. And let's talk about the ways that you can be powerful. Like a dad who's in these little nuggets inside of our journey. And the reason I'm bringing that up is that a lot of us are scared of that present because we feel all alone inside of it. And we don't know what it is that we're supposed to be tackling. And we're worried about what is or isn't going to be happening in our future and stuff like that. And it's like, but if we come and start to be present with it, there's a good dad that's like, kiddo, I've been standing here for a long time with my arm open, waiting to put you under it and just snuggle up with you and have conversations in this.
Yeah. And I think I'm glad you're sharing that. And I'm going to push back because I'm like, yeah. And when I can't feel God, I can't feel God. And that doesn't sound like a great invitation to me. You know what I mean? Like there's times that I feel God, and that has been like, and I'm listening to you and I'm like, yeah, you have lived that out. God has over and over again been like, no, be present here. Quit worrying about the future. Quit obsessing about how things will come together. And what you've done is not just like dissociate out of your life. You've actually just paid attention to what is the breadcrumb in front of me right now. Yeah. And how do I run after that thing? How do I, instead of thinking about my whole future and my whole life, how do I see the one step I do have and how do I come alive right there? Yeah. For the people who are listening who are like, I can't feel God saying, just be with me in the present. Because for me, when I had trauma, I couldn't feel God in the present. I couldn't get to the present. The present felt like the biggest threat to me ever. Yeah. So I couldn't even imagine meeting with God there. Yeah. And so my hope for you to hear is that God will meet you however he can. Mm-hmm. He'll meet you in whatever he needs, but there is a really great invitation for connection with him when we become present. He'll meet me in my fear of the future. He'll meet me in my fear of the finances. He'll meet me in the worry and the strife. Like there's a million times where I was like, I shouldn't be afraid of the future, God, but I am. I'm terrified of the future and I don't know how to unhook from that. And I don't know how to let go of it. Like there's a lot of OCD loops that I had when I was, especially in the height of my PTSD, where I was like looping over what this is going to fall apart. This is going to fall apart. This is going to fall apart. What do I need to do? How do I fix this? Oh, no. And God wasn't like, just get present. He met me there. He met me in the like, oh, I know you're so scared. Yeah. I know it feels wildly out of control. I know. And just like his faithfulness was like a calming, like a presence that stayed with me until I could get out from underneath those fears.
Yeah. So part of this going back to like our vision is more than just our hope of what we're fostering in our community is more than just one of someone being whole. Mm-hmm. It's one of people being alive. Mm-hmm. Alive. And that being alive comes with grief. Yeah. But it comes with being able to face grief, and it comes with loss, and it comes with celebration, and it comes with victories, and it comes with a whole gamut of experiences that we're allowing ourselves.
Love, pain and grief.
And that being alive is this idea of here's a community of people who are active participants that aren't just waiting for, all right, when's the day that I'm done with the suffering and we're just out of this altogether and I get to leave. Yeah. But it's like, oh no, life became an adventure worth participating in. Even in the most simple things that I was doing. It was like this beautiful, like, hey, there is a story currently being written through my life that's unique to my life.
Yes. So
and I
am
engaging this story that is being written. It's like I say this, like my dream with God has been like, I I want you to pen the most amazing story with my life that like will leave people both hanging in like suspense and awe of the outcome. And there's this place inside of me that goes, I'm reserving judgment for what my life is until the story's finished being written.
Absolutely. I love that.
And so there's something inside of me that submits to that idea. Like I'm like,
it's beautiful.
And it governs so many of my actions and my decisions. And it keeps me from making conclusions out of moments that feel disastrous or difficult or whatever. I'm like, it's too soon to make a conclusion on what this story is. I'm going to withhold my judgment on it. Like, what is the story you're writing? Okay, this part of it, I just saw disaster. You know, I was like, on sailing the 7 seas, and all of a sudden a storm came and my boat got blown to pieces. This isn't the end of the story. I'm waiting till the end. So I'm just going to go, wow, what a wild part of this story.
Yeah. It turns out you landed on an island.
Yes.
Where you became king.
Yes.
Just kidding. I went into like all my like little childhood
Lord
stories.
of the Flies. For anyone old enough to have read that book. That was a very dark joke in some ways. Yeah. But that's the thing, is like, maybe there's actually a story that's worth writing with your life. And it gets written.
Not maybe, there is. There is a story worth writing with your life.
Yeah, that maybe was an invitation. Hey, just maybe think about the idea that there's a story worth being written, and that sometimes we're resisting the writing of that story. Like, that story is trying to write itself, and we're trying to bury our head and run from the writing of it, rather than the surrender thing that we've talked about. Surrender, we've talked about acceptance in the previous podcasts and stuff like that, accepting what is currently in the moment. Those are all part of allowing the story to be written, is that we get very present and engage it. And then we get excited to read it at the end. Like, what is the outcome? And that's the thing in the back of me. Like, I'm excited to read that story when it's finished.
Yeah.
And that's vastly different. Let me just say this, by the way, for anyone who hasn't listened to us for a long time, that's vastly different than a little boy who's constantly in suicidal ideation, obsessed with death, hoping for it to all just end. And what's the point monster that constantly said, why am I here? What's the point? This is pointless and dumb. Like, that was a massive voice that dictated the way that I showed up to life for years. And now you have a guy who's going like, I can't wait to read this story. This is incredible. And there is a hopeful story that's being written and waiting to be written through your engagement of saying yes to it.
Yeah. And I'm going to mention this really quick. I know that time is running out, but me and Justin are in the process of dreaming the vision for like what the next season is. Yeah. And we're really excited about it, but we definitely think it involves more connection with people all around the world who are a part of our community, and dreaming everything from like doing conferences, several different places in the world, to do meetups with the Connected Life community, to finding different ways to do more like God, Connected Life connection opportunities. So if you're listening and there's something in your heart that is like, I want to be a part of this. I don't know what that looks like or what that means. We're not asking you to move anywhere, but I'd love to have you just get on our, like, go to justinabby.com, get on our email list, but then email us and be like, hey, I'm on board. There's something stirring my heart. I want to be all that I've made to be. And I want to bring other people into connection with me. And I want to see the world come alive. And like, whether that means like, I mean, we've talked about having small groups around the world, Connected Life hubs where people could go find a place to connect with people. And we haven't solidified anything, but I'd be interested in just starting the conversation.
Yeah, we're in a major dreaming season right now. We've felt like this spark. I mean, you guys have heard a little bit about me turning 40 and feeling like there's something unique on this year that's going to redefine the next 10 years of my life. And right now we're in the slow burning of like, all right, what is that's being stirred for the next decade of experience for us and for other people.
But we know that there's more tangible connection with this community. Like, we've been describing a community that is coming alive, that loves each other, that is messy, but working through the process, where there's grace to be on the journey still
and
learning, but also excited and hopeful about a future. So if you just, we'll probably have several podcasts where we talk about things as we grow and sort through things. But if you're like, if something's burning on your heart while you're listening, send us an email. If you're like, I want to start a group here, or I want to be a part, and I don't know, we'll see what we're working with, and then we'll make it happen.
Yeah. But the more we get tricklings of stuff like that in, it starts sparking like, okay, what is that? What does that look like? What is the invitation for us when someone reaches out and says, here's an idea, or here's a thought, or whatever.
Here are the players. Like when we see like, that we have people in these locations that want to be involved. What does God want to do with that? Yeah. So, thanks so much for listening. We're going to, the Connected Life, you're listening to that. Pathway to Freedom starts August 16th. This is the last time in 23 that you can do it. And if you need help to grow, to get connected to yourself, to start to feel peace in your body, to go on the journey of starting to learn how to become safe for yourself. Yeah. This is a great way to do it. Everything we're talking about, transformation, hope, reconciliation, we will hold your hand through it. Me and Pete C through the immersion program this year are teaching about getting safe in your body and training your body and your nervous system how to get to repair. And that alone will change your life. So email us if you're interested in joining something that we are going to be starting someday.
Yeah. Send us an email. And also Life Consulting Masterclass. We have applications for that. That's going to start January 1st, and so get your applications in soon.
We want an army of people who can help people get connected.
Yeah. Yep. So with that said, I love that you guys are here, part of this journey with us, and I hope that this is sparking something inside of you further in your dreaming process. Yeah.
And we just, why don't you just pray for people to come alive and feel that divine spark of hope?
Yeah. Papa, there's some kiddos listening that they don't have a spark, or they remember having that spark and they haven't felt it in a long time. And there's waves of pain and experiences that have kind of dimmed that light inside of them. But Dad, I welcome your presence, that your Holy Spirit would begin to engage people right now, where all of a sudden things that have felt so hard and arduous, just trying to like process through and walk through, and even getting out of bed some days difficult, or just like making basic decisions have felt so difficult, like things like that you would overtake them and they'd feel suddenly like I'm not alone in this. This is a really big decision I have to make, or this is some really difficult stuff that I have to do, but I don't feel alone. And I feel a spark inside of me that there's so much beyond this moment of this thing that I'm trying to overcome. And there's so much grace for me to move through this thing that I'm working on inside of my heart. God, I just welcome your goodness, your love, your passion, your truth, your vibrant, abundant life to begin to engage your kiddos, that people who have never felt that all of a sudden would feel something that goes, I don't know what this is, but I'm feeling life. I'm feeling goodness. I'm feeling something that transcends my normal senses all of a sudden. And that you'd be overtaken with hope in this season, no matter what your circumstances are. And that suddenly you could see things that you've been blind to, maybe your entire life. You could see the truth of who you are, the truth of who your creator is, the truth of the relationship that's meant to be made between you and your creator, that you could feel the power of love overtake you in this season. And that love would bring you so much comfort, and you'd feel a sense of safety and settledness inside of your own skin, where you could feel and know there is resolve for the things that I didn't think there was a possibility of resolve for. That you just feel the confidence of that, the joy of that, the hope of that. And I bless you now. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Okay, we'll see you guys later.
All right, bye. Bye.
Oh, bye.
Oh, later.
Okay, bye.
Later, Gator.
Oh, later, Gator.